Okay, that was kind of fun. Hello, my fellow dwellers of Sanctuary, and indeed, fellow Gauntleteers. Can we go with Gauntleteers? Can that be a thing? And perhaps even more specifically to my fellow Sorcerers, as it's you guys that I'm competing with. I actually really like this mode. Like, genuinely, this is kind of fun. And I didn't expect it to be as fun as it's turned out to be. I also didn't expect it to be a few other things it's turned out to be, but we'll get into that. First and foremost, I gave it a go as soon as it went live and got rank 82 on my first attempt with a score that has now been beaten by like 2.5 times. But that's fine. A blind wandering before my map was even revealed. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that first attempt, and indeed the build. Though that said, the build certainly, I need to do some tweaks now we have got our hands on it and can understand really what's going on, how it works, the strategies, and there's so much to think about, which actually makes it so satisfying. It's so much more complex and planning rewarding than Abattoir of Zur, which is just watch the numbers go burr. And yes, there is definitely a skill, a nuance, a achievement in pushing all the way to the rank 25 that happened, but it's so different from the Gauntlet, which is all about that speed alongside a perfect route with perfect execution, all thought about before you go in, and seeing it come to fruition and seeing you get that high place on the top 1000 leaderboard, the rewards that go with it, the shiny gold plaque next to your name. Yeah, that's kind of a feeling that Diablo 4 was sorely missing. So I want to just kind of, talk about it now that this mode has come out and will exist, all being well, as a permanent, solid endgame addition to a game that, despite having really solid moment-to-moment combat feel, kind of had essentially no endgame whatsoever. The idea that we get this new puzzle to crack every single week that is the Gauntlet dungeon, at least for now, is really exciting to me. I also think there is an element of this is happening much too late. We know it got delayed a lot, but for what there actually is here, making it this big, here we go, feels a little anticlimactic. If this was here from the start, we would be just having this nice little bit of content to do that you can work on each week, do your leaderboards, get your rewards, that's cool. But by itself, essentially carrying the main meat of a mid-season, this is it, here we go, guys. I can understand why someone would have a kind of that's it reaction. I just particularly like solving these kinds of speedrunny puzzles. And we'll have to see how good the rewards are at the end of the week from the caches, but there is always that element too. The ever-present, this should be a source of uber uniques, everything endgame should be, does certainly rear its head, but I don't think that's too huge, at least right now, until we see how these caches play out next week. Yes, eventually, months and months and months from now, alright, a new layout, new shrines, new bosses in different places, okay, what's the correct path to kill everything this time? Yeah, it might wear thin, but everything does with enough time. All I know is that at the moment, I am feeling a hunger to crack this. Like, I'm over here in paint, drawing lines of where I think might be a good way to go about it, in what order and when to use the shrines and all of that stuff, and it just feels like I'm looking at this mode, well, like this, and that's really satisfying to me. That scratches an itch that I like. And ultimately, it's kind of turned out to really not be about your build. Yes, your build is very important, of course, but it's just as important as literally planning your route, memorizing the dungeon, knowing where you will go when, what you will kill in what order, when you will use which shrine. There is certainly a lot to be said about that, and while I think the main negative is that every single gauntlet will essentially be, solved, after a couple days of trying things and seeing what's up. That solving process is where it's at. We will, yes, again, eventually get to a point where we're sort of waiting for the next one, where all the top scores are roughly similar, and you can't really crack into it other than just, doing what works, but figuring out what works, and then improving on what other people have figured out what works, and maybe making a small little adjustment to just push that extra couple thousand that really make the difference and get you that higher place. Yeah, that's going to be it, and so far it is it. If I was going to do one biggest, just general, fundamental how it works gripe right now, is the fact that you have to pick up the chest keys when you kill the mob that drops them, as opposed to them just getting hoovered up and then you have them, like a cinder. That would be so much nicer. Just a little thing, but it's really annoying. You're desperately trying to go fast, not make a mistake, and then you're having to click on this little iron key text on the ground to grab your key. It is kind of weirdly frustrating, as small of a thing as that might be. I've only done about 4 or 5 runs so far, but I've managed to push my score from the initial 290k blind to like 450. I've slipped down to like rank 300, but hey, again, I'm still pretty pleased with that, and I really just want to sit down and go for this. It has turned out to be a little bit more single target boss focused with how much more score they're worth, which is a little bit disappointing to me. I was hoping you could go the mobbing route if you wanted to, just really clearing the place, killing every elite, every group of enemies, but I am a little bit concerned that the tuning of what score is worth essentially pushes us in the direction of the solution is going to be the efficient order to kill the bosses as many times as possible while having like a score shrine on, which, isn't bad for now, but that might need mixing it up. They did say, of course, this is a test, it's the first time they're trialing this mode, so things like numbers can be and will be adjusted, so I don't want to focus too much on that. And while this really doesn't have that element of dealing with the unexpected, reacting well to a situation, it's not like Abattoir really had that either. You can crack this with just proper, attempts over and over and over again. And I think it's really refreshing to have something that doesn't need you to be absolutely gear perfect, because I think the minimum build strength to get a really decent competitive high score is actually lower than we thought. Yes, we knew it was going to be tier 70 equivalent, but I'm not running a single defensive anything to really push speed, and nothing's threatening because again it's tier 70. So being able to have that sort of reckless abandon as opposed to make one nano mistake for half a second and you just go splat in high Abattoir of Zers is again a really refreshing twist on an actual endgame mode. And I think ultimately a Diablo 4 in which we just permanently have an Abattoir of Zer for those people that want to push the absolute ceiling with the most perfect of perfect gear in the most perfect of perfect builds played without a single mistake to get past overwhelming damage coming in and damage needing to be done, and that's the juice there, working out, the numbers go burr as I said, and then alongside it we have the Gauntlet where the build to do it is very different, it has a lower requirement, and so much more is involved in the actual clear path that you're going to do, the pre-planning, the thinking about it, the memorizing, the knowing what's there, the fact that it is fixed and you can go in with that in mind and build cool strategies on top of it to actually work into the build you've chosen to do it. Essentially, speed running versus, power running, and that's a really nice duo. And they did hint that Abattoir might be coming back in a tweaked form to give us again more breadth of endgame, and I'm really sort of hopeful. I think this definitely has less immediate issues than Abattoir of Zer did. I like that you get actual rewards for completing it each time, a bit of gear, you have the actual caches at the end of the week for being in the top 1000 or wherever you end up, and it just gives you a thing thing to attain. And then leaderboards alongside it as part of it, yeah, that's really aspirational. It's cool to see where you are, how you compare to the best, what you might want to do differently, and that's really, really neat. And the thing is, you look at people on the leaderboards, and yes, you can see what skills they have, but that doesn't really matter, because as I say, what they actually did in there is as important, if not more, than the skills they did it with. So without being able to watch a little video of them run, you don't really gain much from sort of just copying the skills on their bars, and that's really neat. Certainly there are things you can do and tricks you can exploit, and we will be covering them very soon. We've been doing a lot of testing, and there's some very interesting, let's say, quirks of the place, but by and large, yeah, I am really, really pleased at this. It is seriously fun to go flying around on my Sorcerer, and I will be bringing you an updated, better Gauntlet build now that I've actually experienced it myself very soon. In fact, tomorrow, less than 24 hours from you hearing these words, and that should really help any of you that want to crack that top 1000, as much as, you know, I don't want to give myself even more competition, but no, I really encourage it. It's really, really nice. So, yeah, I just kind of wanted to spill my thoughts, my initial reaction to this mode. I think it is instantly more fun to me than Abattoir of Zur. I think it has essentially almost an opposite problem to Abattoir. Abattoir started out kind of then got a little bit more fun as we understood it and started pushing it, whereas this will be initially really fun as each gauntlet is a mystery, and then get less fun as it's solved. But that kind of works in tandem. You can have a long-term power-pushing goal, and then short-term bursts of what is, as I keep kind of referring to it, a puzzle that you solve, and then you've solved it and you move on, but you had fun solving it, and that still has its place. It does highlight, however, flaws in the rest of the game. The fact that we don't have loadouts is going to be crippling when we start getting multiple endgame modes that need very different builds, and it's a pain in the ass to swap, and we're still missing these basic features that an ARPG should just have to make it, you know, nice to play. I am really hoping the gear rework, the affix changes, the legendaries going in the codex, and all of that coming in Season 4 includes loadouts, so we can properly switch builds in a way that is actually, you know, viable. That is the big thing for me. But that all said, yeah, that's where we're at. If you have kind of been like, Diablo, and I do not blame you, Season 3's been sort of just fine, especially compared to Season 2. Season 4, I think, is really, really promising, but if you have been kind of and wanted to see how this is, I definitely think it's worth opening it, giving it a go, running it a couple times, and do it completely blind. Don't look up how best route or anything. That will, of course, exist. Hey, we will be giving you one soon too, but initially, give it a go blind, see what your score, maybe have a little competition with your friends. There really is some potential here. Having a direct, literal, numerical representation of how well you did and being able to see it, well, I don't need to tell you the merits of leaderboards. There's a reason they're a thing in so many games, especially RPGs, and it's nice to finally have that in Diablo. It adds a real nice element that you can care about. And wow, imagine having something to care about in Diablo 4. Not in my Diablo! In any case, yeah, that's where we're at for now. Like you've enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more. Consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below. And until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.